Hi, this is Wishop, and I'm doing another one of these readings. This will be a different one again. This will be playing cards. Um, you might wonder why I'm doing so many readings. I'm kind of working through some ideas in my own mind, and I find doing readings helps me do that. So I hope that along the way, maybe it's helpful to you too, any of these thoughts I'm throwing out there. Um, and also, when I do it as a live stream, I don't have to worry so much about length. Um, so that's another reason why I do it this way. Anyway, the I want to talk about the fact that the summer solstice is known in most of the world as Midsummer, and it's the source of the Midsummer Night's Dream, or the timing of the Midsummer Night's Dream play by Shakespeare. It's a magical night. In other parts of the world, it's also called St. John's Eve, after St. John the Baptist, which ties in, and I'll sort of get into how these things all relate to each other. But it's a time of love. It's a night of love, and it's a magical night of love. And unlike most holidays, in the US at least, we have a lot of holidays that are maybe secular holidays. They don't seem particularly religious, but they come at the same time as the mile markers of the year or the hinges of the year. Hello. It's very nice to see you. So they come at the hinges of the year, these markers on the wheel of the year. But this one, Midsummer, in the United States especially, doesn't have an analogous holiday. So it will come midsummer. The long night will be St. John's Eve, the 23rd, the 24th of June. And you might say, well, but July 4th is coming up. But that's once we're kind of already into July. It's another, what, 10 or 12 days after the real midsummer night, after the real St. John's Eve. So it's not quite the same thing. And July 4th, as well as the following, Bastille Day in France, they have a much more strong, militant, bold sort of energy. They have a different vibe. This is all about Cancer. This particular celebration, if you will, is all about that watery Cancer Ace of Cups type vibe, which is why I wanted to show you the garden card from this particular. This is again Pixie's Fabulous, or Pixie's Astounding Lenormand. Now I'm always going to call it Fabulous, by Edmund Zabrowski. So they used Edmund Zabrowski used the traditional Ace of Cups imagery here, and then he made this the garden card, which is about the public. So this, to me, is what Midsummer is all about. There's this dreamy, loving vibe, and it can be a romantic vibe, but it can also just be that contented feeling. If you've ever had that sort of dreamy, contented feeling where you just, maybe you're lazing in a porch chair as the sun is going down and everything feels golden and right. That's the kind of woozy, loving, in love with the world kind of feeling we're talking about. And in the play Midsummer Night's Dream, it is a feeling that has everybody in the play, including humans, fairies, nobles, commoners. Everybody is crisscrossing partners and hopping the veil and falling in love with each other and out of love with each other. And that sort of energy is what this time of year is about. So I wanted to mention that, as I said, in America, we don't really have a celebration of that. One of the few places that did celebrate it, or does still, is New Orleans through the St. John's Eve celebrations that take place in the voodoo practicing communities of Louisiana voodoo, as it's called, or New Orleans voodoo. And if you look around the world, you will find lots of other midsummer celebrations, which have bonfires and feasting and people out and having fun all night on this longest day of the year. So it's the, you know, longest period that you can carouse with a little bit of light. And this is a classic time for people to enjoy each other's company, to be socializing, to be getting together. So it's got all that kind of good stuff with it. And yet we don't really have in the US in most places a frank celebration of it. And this would be a time actually that I would put St. Valentine's Day in a way. Where we celebrate St. Valentine's Day, there is the birth of the baby animals and the coming of spring. But when it comes to humans, this is the time. And this is, of course, also, in June, it's the time of weddings. It is the time when people would get together at fairs and gatherings to matchmake, to make agreements with each other, to form new families. And all of that energy is right here. And actually, astrologically, Venus is going to oppose Mars at this same time period. So Venus is in Cancer in this beautiful, watery, motherly sign. And Mars is in Capricorn, the opposite sign. And once a year, they oppose each other. And it's happening basically around the same time period as this midsummer. And their opposition is more like an opposites attract kind of moment. It's a moment when these two opposing energies can really enjoy the friction with each other. So that's what's going on. So I wanted to do a reading specifically for that energy and also to suggest that if you haven't thought about for the summer solstice, lighting a little candle of your own, lighting a candle for love and for those you love, lighting a candle for memory and for family and for all the things that you want to birth in your life, this is a great time to do it. This is a wonderful time for those kinds of deep and emotional intentions, these deep heartfelt feelings. This is a wonderful time to do that. And now, maybe you can hear me, I'm shuffling some playing cards because I thought I would like to do some playing cards, and I'll probably add in these Lenormand cards as well. And I've got the Shadowscapes Tarot on the side if I decide to use it because it's a very dreamy tarot deck. And so I think it's very nice. It's very delicate and dreamy, which is wonderful for this time of year. Also, I should say, I'm always a big fan of working with the ancestors. It's good anytime. Your ancestors are not just the people you know by name. You are related to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people, and many of them are still on the other side, wishing you well, wanting to help you out, wanting to mentor, wanting to support you, just like any good grandparent would want to see you happy, healthy, and productive. Your ancestors want that for you. They want that for all their children. So if you don't connect with your ancestors in a personal way with specific people, maybe your grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, people who've passed on, you can always connect in a general way with your ancestors. You don't have to know them by name. You don't have to know where they came from. Oh, that's nice. Kim, that's so wonderful to hear. Yeah, the ancestors, I heard it once from a wizard, actually, that working with your ancestors will get you 80% of the luck that you experience. It really is a great boost when you start to connect with your deeper, older self. That self that has been around this big blue ball before and has family, lots of family, and lots of supporters. So, but the other thing that is also great for this time of year, because it is a magical time, it's one of the hinges of the year. So, Shakespeare wrote all about the fairies. You can work with the fairies at this time of year. You can work with other elemental beings of nature if you're into that. You can work with the angels everybody is going to be, we're going to all be kind of close together because the water is flowing and it provides the current that carries our messages to each other. So the water element is all about healing and blessing and bringing things forth. You know, the moon controls the tides of the earth, but we're all born from our mother's waters. And so there's this idea that there's healing in it, there's wisdom in it, there's tradition in it, and that the water is the current that carries spirit. So it's a great time to contact any sort of spiritual family, mentors, guides that you have, because the flow is very good right now. And putting yourself in that dreamy, wonderful, calm, and beautiful sense of love, whatever it is you love, whatever you enjoy, if it's taking a great bath, makes you just feel that sense of all is right with the world, even if it's just for a few moments, but you feel that real communal, beautiful sense, that's the feeling to try to cultivate during this midsummer, because that provides a powerful channel for blessings and healing to come to you and for your good wishes and intentions to head to wherever you're directing them. So we'll do some playing cards. So I have been working with ancestors recently, and I sort of discovered a spiritual ancestor who I was not expecting, which for me is always the case. I never expect it until it shows up. I try, I predict, you know, cast forward, and I make these guesses and assumptions, but then the person who shows up is quite unexpected to me, and I go, wow. And yet somehow it always makes sense. When it actually shows up and it makes sense, there's a rightness to it. And you think, oh, why didn't I figure that out before? Anyway, so let's go into this and let's talk about, or at least I'm going to try to talk about what we can do to maximize the sweetness of this time, to really enjoy it fully, to get the most from it, and to be the most productive with it. It is a strong birthing time. So, a lot of planets are in water right now, and Neptune has just gone retrograde. So, that's this intense focus on internal dreams and wishes and your internal spiritual life. So, this is a great time to be thinking about what you would like to bring forth in that way. What ideas do you want to birth? What feelings do you want to have more of? This is a time to fall in love with those feelings. So maybe there's something that every time you work in the garden, you feel good. Even if it's just for 10 minutes, try during the midsummer to work in the garden and get that feeling and just remember how good that is, because this is a planting seeds kind of time where you're really putting in the seeds, and the seeds are all about the way you want to feel. So let's go here and let's just see what we get, because the cards are always surprising, but I'm actually looking not only for the way to make the most of this, but what things do I not know? Because as I said, I've been working through my own sets of questions, and oftentimes I feel that if there's a block in my progress, a lot of times I know it's with me. It's not with the world, it's with me. And then it's, okay, what is it that's on the back of my shirt like a kick me sign that I can't see? What is it I'm not seeing about myself? What is it I'm not responding to or reflecting on? So let's go and let's get some cards out. Here we go. Okay. So this is 5 of clubs, I consider upright. 9 of hearts, upright. I like it. Jack of hearts. Okay. So here we go. This is interesting. I'm sorry. I do always say that though. The 5 of clubs, 5 of clubs in reverse. So 5 of clubs upright would be a sign for amplified effort. You're adding effort into something, and it is this somewhat competitive area, but it's also an area of training. It's an area where you really are having to train and put in effort because you're skill building. It's a dynamic time of growing skills in a certain area. When, for me, when Five of Clubs is upright, and it is a feminine card, so when it's upright, you're building, you're developing, you're growing, and there can be a little sense of competition where you're building with other people. You're, working with other people, but you're pushing each other forward. It's a healthy competition. So this Five of Clubs in reverse, to me, would caution against unhealthy competition, especially with women in your life. And as so many planets are in Cancer and there's such a focus on Cancer, if this were a motherly figure or someone who has been mothering you by mentoring you in some way, this would be a time not to be in competition with them, a time to withdraw from competition because it's not productive, not to put effort into a competitive mindset. Because what you have on both sides of this Five of Clubs are beautiful hearts cards. And we think of hearts as being positive in playing card reading anyway. And these are lovely ones. And of course, hearts will tie in with cups, which tie in with the time of year we're in, which is Cancer, which is midsummer. So here we have the Nine of Hearts. So we have this idea of emotional fulfillment, which is like the wish card, right? So it's a yes card. It's a card of being generous, of being emotionally generous, of having enough to share. So it could be that if you're in a situation, perhaps with a woman, where there's been an unhealthy level of competition, where you have felt to get ahead, you've just had to put in more and more and more energy. And it could be in a relationship. Sometimes our closest friend or family relationships can turn into competition. So this competition could mean at work, but it could also be one in which you're exerting yourself to achieve, where you have ambitions or goals for what you're trying to get done. And these goals are perhaps in conflict with another person. You have sort of competing visions of what you're trying to achieve. And as I said, this can be in a relationship as well as in a work or career situation, which clubs often reflect. But this is saying back off from that notion and instead try to be generous, which is horribly difficult. I don't know about you. It's horribly difficult for me when I'm feeling competitive with someone and I'm feeling like they're not respecting what I bring to the party, like they're not respecting my qualities, they're not giving me my clubs can be a card or a suit that will have to do with status in the world. They're not giving me my props. They're not giving me my respect. And I just want to put more out there. I just want to fight harder to get my respect. That's what I'm trying to do. And I'll just keep pouring on and pouring on, putting more effort because somehow I'm going to force them to give me the props that I deserve. Okay. So, all right, there we go. So, thank you, Kim. Yeah, it's not, this is a situation a lot of us find ourselves in. And we just put more and more effort into that situation, trying to get some satisfaction and some recognition out of it. The sixth card in clubs is a card of recognition. It's a card of, you're being on the path. People recognize it. You have support. In five, we're trying to get that support. We're trying to get that recognition. But with the Five of Clubs in reverse, we're not getting it. And our effort could be to pile on more effort. This is not saying to do that. This is saying, can you be generous of spirit? And can you relax? I mean, that's hard. But Nine of Hearts is a relaxed position. If you think of the typical tarot card, the Nine of Hearts, the Nine of Cups is this innkeeper sitting surrounded by cups and capable of great hospitality. So, where we've got this hospitality, it really implies that you have enough that you can afford to be generous with someone else. That is pretty hard to do when you feel like they're not respecting you. How can you be emotionally generous and hospitable with people who are not respecting you? It's very tough to do. And yet, in this situation, and I'm flipping through the shadowscapes to see if I can find the Nine of Cups. It's a lovely one. In this situation, if you can relax and be emotionally generous, it looks like the offer will come to you. And because this is the Jack of Hearts, I apologize if you hear the phone in the background, but because this is the Jack of Hearts, it seems to me like it might not be the same situation as the uh, female figure that you may be in competition with. And because Mars is going to be in Capricorn and this one is sort of facing this direction, I feel like what's going to happen is if you can relax and be emotionally generous with this female figure, or it could be just a female energy that you feel like, if you've ever had the feeling of being in a hen house, so it could be a person with whom you're sharing gossip, where we have this concept of the hen house, like what kind of things go on. There's a lot of toxic comparison, there's a lot of gossip about other people. So if this is a person with whom you've shared that kind of relationship, this is a time to back off on that behavior, to be emotionally generous, and to feel as well as you can emotionally solid within yourself. Because if you do, someone else comes to you with an offer of love. So this could be a situation where you're in a situation, maybe it's with your mother, maybe it's with a sister or a coworker, in an atmosphere that has taken on this kind of attribute of being, you know, toxically gossipy or people backbiting each other, that kind of thing. And you pull back from it and you show an emotional generosity that says everybody's welcome here. You know, you make your doors open to be emotionally supportive to lots of people. And in doing that, maybe someone you don't even expect, this Jack of Hearts comes forward and you get the recognition that you want. And they give you an offer that is of love, of appreciation, of recognition. You get that emotional support that you're looking for, but it may not come to you from the person that you've been hoping to get the respect from, if that makes any sense. But by basically being the way that you sort of wish this person would be towards you, by being emotionally open, by being generous. The Nine of Hearts is emotionally generous, but it doesn't give more than it has. So this is not asking you to, because we're talking about not putting more effort into something, into a competition that's not working. So this is not about doing that. This is not about busting yourself into trying to earn someone's respect or to prove that you are generous. This is showing mercy, showing gratitude for what you have, generating that loving feeling within yourself, feeling that desire to see blessings in another person's life, sort of imagining, if you will, the win win situation. When you do this stuff with the Nine of Hearts, it's not an energy of taking action, it's an energy of your state of mind, your attitude. That attitude is going to draw admirers. That attitude is going to draw good things to you, good offers to you. Even if those offers come from a different direction than you felt the tension. So, if that makes any sense, if you're involved in a tense situation, you back off the effort you're putting into it. You stop trying to make the person respect you. You stop trying to prove yourself. You just don't invest any more effort into that, but you work on cultivating within yourself in this beautifully watery time this sense of gratitude for what you have, this sense of happiness. Oh, thank you. For me, it's advice too, right? It's always every reading you do is for yourself too. But you generate within yourself this desire to bless, this feeling of abundance based on what you have to appreciate in life. And from somewhere else will come this recognition that says, you're doing this, you've got this. This recognition of your quality and of what you have to offer is going to come from somewhere else. And it could come in a spiritual way. So you look for synchronicities that if you generate this feeling, you could have messages coming in from your ancestors, from your guides, in the form of luck, in the form of little kisses from the universe, letting you know that you're in tune, that you're in tune with the state of things, and that you're not going to keep trying to battle and clash. So let me see. I didn't find it, but let me find it here. I will get it because I sort of stopped flipping through the cards. Da, da, da. Come on, friend. You're so beautiful, but I know you'll be near the bottom of the deck because that's just how it goes. And the good news is I'm getting through this deck, so it's got to be soon, doesn't it? Here, I'll pull this one out for sure. And, here it is. Okay. So here, I thought I'd show you, this is the Shadowscapes Ace of Cups. It's a beautiful cup and beautiful fish. And so this is really, it's got the sense of community. And then we've got the Nine of Cups by these fish. And there's this sort of halo around this person. And I'm going to pull this up closer so I can look at it. Yeah, it's as if the cup is connected to the halo around their head, and the halo is also sort of connected to their heart. So this is really getting into the flow and spreading your light that way. So I think it's very nice. Let me see else. I'm going to shuffle through the Lenormand and see if there's any other focus point. But yeah, I definitely wanted to talk about making the most of the Midsummer and St. John's Eve. Don't pass it up. It's a wonderful opportunity to get yourself in tune and to enjoy the beauty of life. If it's something that you feel like you've been missing out on lately, perhaps because of competition and tensions, it's a time to really let yourself enjoy it, even if you have to enjoy it independently. You know, the Nine of Hearts can be a card where you're looking around after things have been accomplished or done, and you're reviewing your domain. You're seeing how have I done? You're looking at the results or even the aftermath of things. So this is a sense that you may be on your own in making this evaluation, but it won't go unnoticed, if that makes sense. So I'm going to just flip a Lenormand card. Actually, I'll flip two since they work in combination, just to see if there's any other focal point that wants to come up. Oh, there we go. Here are the birds. They're back again. And the dog. I love it. Okay, so here again we have the birds, which is a very strong relationship card, but it can also be a card of gossip. It can be a card of anxiety when it's not well aspected. But this is beautifully aspected because it's got the dog with it, which is a card of fidelity and a card of love. It's a card of loyalty. So this is the idea to make your relationships loyal or spend time thinking and discussing the loyalty in your life, the good relationships, the wonderful foundations you have. And this is also, the phrase that just came to me is dance with the one that brung you. So if you are doing things in your life, do things that really have worked for you long term. Even if you have changes that you want to make, right now is the time to sit with yourself, do things that you know make you feel good, that don't try to impose a bunch of stressful, taxing new changes on yourself because it's a go with the flow kind of time. But if there are things that you know work for you, and because it's the birds, I also think about things like nutrition. So, trusting things that have worked for you and that make you feel good. You can also think about things like music and conversation. Like, this is a time for old favorites and to appreciate your old favorites and to feel a lot of gratitude for them. That sense of gratitude is always a safe haven. When you're full of emotion and you don't know where to go with it, try to channel it out in gratitude, because if you can, even gritting your teeth, I am grateful that my shoelaces didn't snap today. I am grateful that my car's wheels stayed on. I am grateful that the sky stayed up and that the ground stayed down. Whatever you have to do to funnel it into gratitude is a good place to put overflowing emotion. Yeah, so I think that's it. Did you, Kim, happen to want a card for anything? Should I just do in general, like a mystery card? Yeah, it does work. It is hard. I mean, it is hard. It's hard to be grateful when there are things that you're worried about and there are things that are taxing your spirit. It's hard to remember. I'm one of those who keeps a gratitude journal, and I don't do it every day. I should do it every day, but when I travel and things like that, I don't always have it with me. But I write 5 things I'm grateful for. And even if they're very small things, like I'm very grateful for my travel mug, I'm grateful for the planks in the floor, whatever it is. If I can be grateful for it, I know that it helps me. I know that it helps redirect my energy in the right places and keeps my head from getting stuck in the bad places. Oh, do a video sometime about working with fairies. I would love to. I will tell you what I know about it. I don't work with the Fae that much, but I will talk about the higher energies that I have worked with, and I will talk about the more natural energies that I have worked with, which overlap with experiences of the Fae. And also, because I tend to trip through the other world, I'm a lucid dreamer and I kind of trip through the other world that way. I can talk about those experiences, some of which definitely seem like they are inflected with Fey energy. So I am, oh, cool, cool. I would love to do that. So I will happily have a talk just about that. And yeah, well, I guess that's it for now. And thanks so much for tuning in, Kim. And thank you, anybody else who's tuning in now. I really appreciate your likes and your subscriptions. But most of all, I hope that you have a wonderful midsummer and that you rock on with your bad selves.